Hello everybody, Mobius1 here, bringing you my second Star Wars Unlimited Twilight of the Republic card review video. Even though set 3 for Star Wars Unlimited is still a couple months away, we're already entering a bit of a spoiler season, and in this episode we've got 5 spoiled cards to talk about. If you're new to the channel, I do lots of Star Wars gaming content, among other things, with a heavy focus on Star Wars Unlimited right now. However, I will be doing a playthrough for Star Wars Outlaws when that comes out in like a week or two. If any of that sounds interesting, feel free to check out my playlists where I conveniently organize all of my content for you to sift through and find other games that you might be interested in watching. But with all that out of the way, let's jump right into today's cards. So the first card we're taking a look at today is a 4-cost yellow or cunning event, Prisoner of War. A friendly unit captures an enemy non-leader, non-vehicle unit. If the enemy unit costs less than the friendly unit, create 2 battle droid tokens. So capture was a mechanic that was introduced in set 2, Shadows of the Galaxy, and involves taking an enemy unit and putting it face down underneath a friendly unit, and then when that friendly unit is either defeated or captured itself, the captured unit returns to its owner's arena exhausted. The Star Wars Unlimited team has come out and said that capturing units is probably going to be one of, if not the only, recurring mechanic that's introduced in one expansion and then comes back in later ones as well. So Prisoner of War is pretty easy to compare to a card we got in set 2, Relentless Pursuit, which was a 3-cost cunning event. Choose a friendly unit, it captures an enemy non-leader unit that costs the same as or less than it, and then if the friendly unit was a bounty hunter, it gets a shield token. And although these cards are very similar, they have so many little minor differences. For example, Prisoner of War can't capture vehicles, where Relentless Pursuit can. Prisoner of War could be used to capture a larger unit, you just don't get the 2 battle droid tokens, whereas Relentless Pursuit can only capture units that cost the same as or less. Relentless Pursuit has the additional condition of getting the shield token only if it's captured by a bounty hunter, but that's not really a big deal because usually you only put this in a deck with lots of bounty hunter units. And in case you forgot, battle droid tokens are 1/1 ground units, so the question really becomes, is it worth paying 1 additional resource to potentially create 2 1/1 tokens? And I'll be honest, that's kind of hard to answer this early into the spoiler season because we don't know all of the different synergies that those tokens could be used with. We do know that one of the leaders in the 2-player starter set for Twilight of the Republic is going to be General Grievous, and his action ability allows him to give a droid unit Sentinel for the phase. So if you're running Prisoner of War in a General Grievous deck, you could capture an enemy unit, create 2 1/1 tokens, maybe your opponent does something, and then you use General Grievous to give one of those 1/1 Sentinel for the phase, protecting your unit that just captured. In the last video, we looked at another new card with another new mechanic, Exploit, which allows you to sacrifice your own units in order to reduce the cost of playing that card. So Prisoner of War can not only be used to capture an enemy unit, but then if you do generate those 2 tokens, you can use those to maybe play out a Hailfire tank for 4 resources. And there are, of course, ways of reducing Prisoner of War's cost through the use of, like, Bib Fortuna, although I don't ultimately think that's going to be necessary. It is an option out there. Prisoner of War's playability is going to come down to how useful are those 1/1 battle droid tokens, but I have a feeling there are going to be plenty of uses for them, and Relentless Pursuit has seen some play, so if those 2 tokens can be used somehow, and I'm pretty sure that they will be, Prisoner of War actually isn't that bad of a card. Next up we have General's Blade, a 3-cost green or command upgrade that gives the attached unit +3 power, +3 HP, and reads, attached to a non-vehicle unit. If attached unit is a Jedi, it gains, on attack, the next unit you play this phase costs 2 less. So this is actually going to be the 3rd lightsaber upgrade in Star Wars Unlimited, one of the other 2 from set 1 being Jedi Lightsaber, which is also a 3-cost upgrade that gives the attached unit +3/+3. General's Blade, however, has two noticeable differences. The first is the lack of either a heroism or villainy aspect requirement. Another first for General's Blade is that its conditional ability requires it to be attached to a Jedi unit instead of a Force unit. This is interesting for two reasons. First, there are no other cards in the game currently that have additional text for Jedi, specifically only Force. That is an important distinction because there are several Force units in the game currently, such as the Luke Skywalker leader here, that are not Jedi. In this case, General's Blade could absolutely be given to Luke Skywalker, faithful friend, and he would get the +3/+3, but he would miss out on the on-attack bonus. So I'm really curious why General's Blade has a conditional ability if attached to a Jedi and yet is lacking the heroism aspect icon. This means that you could potentially run it in a villainy deck, but we don't have any villainy cards that are Jedi yet. I imagine it's possible we can get like a fallen Anakin Skywalker card that is villainy and yet has the Jedi trait, and then General's Blade would work with him. I also think it would be really cool if we get some sort of General Grievous unit that gets some sort of additional effect for every lightsaber attached to him, so he could benefit from this even though he wouldn't be a Jedi. So it's definitely interesting. It's definitely powerful. We know reducing the cost of cards is a very, very scary thing in card games. So I think attacking with a unit for probably a pretty significant amount of damage, since this is going to be buffing them by +3/+3, and then getting a 2-cost discount on the next unit you play, is going to be pretty strong. Next up, we have Jesse, which is a 3-cost aggression heroism unit who is a 4/4 with Raid 1, and when played, an opponent creates 2 Battle Droid tokens. Again, those Battle Droid tokens are just 1/1 ground units, and man, that, Jesse, this is a tough card to evaluate. So a 3-cost 4/4 that attacks as if it's a 5/4 on turn 2 is very, very powerful. And giving your opponent 2 1/1 Battle Droid tokens, if they have no synergies or cards to do anything with them, is really not that big of a deal. But if they do have ways to use them, it's very bad. I mean, just using the cards that we already know about that are coming in Twilight of the Republic, if it's turn 2, both players have 3 resources, you play Jesse, give your opponent those 2 Battle Droid tokens, and they claim initiative. At the start of the next turn, again, they can use Exploit to sacrifice those 2 tokens and play a 4-cost Hailfire tank. What's stronger than a 4/4 that attacks as a 5/4? A 7/6 that, well, it attacks as a 7/6. It's a 7/6. But it doesn't even have to be that specific. Even if you're just going up against General Grievous, again, you play Jesse, you give your opponent 2 1/1 Battle Droid tokens, and yeah, Jesse attacks with 5 power, but General Grievous can just give one of those 2 1/1 tokens Sentinel, and now you're forced to waste your 5 power attack into a 1/1 Battle Droid token, unless you have some other way to clear it. And that's kind of the thing, too. This set is going to be a set with lots of cards about going wide on the board. So I imagine there's going to be some sort of cards that deal 1 or 2 damage to multiple units in order to help counter that. And if such a card can fit into a deck with Jesse, then that will buff his potential strength up. But currently, the most comparable card we have is Wanted Insurgents, which is also a 3-cost aggression unit, also a 4/4, and it also has a drawback. Instead of just outright giving your opponent 2 1/1 tokens, it has Bounty deal 2 damage to a unit, which is kind of similar, right? Because the 2 1/1 tokens could potentially deal 2 damage to a unit, but those 2 1/1 tokens have so many more uses than just a flat 2 damage to something that Wanted Insurgents might actually be better, and the drawback of Wanted Insurgents doesn't happen until after they're defeated, whereas Jesse's drawback happens right away. But that doesn't mean that Wanted Insurgents are strictly better than Jesse either. Jesse does have the Republic, Clone, and Trooper traits, which again, we may see synergies for in the future. I'm going to echo what I said when I first showed this card. He's got to be one of the most challenging cards to evaluate without the context of the rest of Twilight of the Republic. We need to see what other synergies could be used for Jessie and what other synergies could be used with the 1/1 Battle Droid tokens, because as we see more cards introduced with synergies for either of those two, Jessie either becomes better or worse. And speaking of aggression cards that are kind of difficult to evaluate, our next one is Aura Sing, a 7-cost aggression 7/6 unit with Overwhelm, and when an enemy ground unit attacks your base, ready this unit. I'm going to be honest, despite the fact that Aura Sing has Overwhelm, I feel kind of underwhelmed. Most 7-cost units that see play have some sort of immediate impact on the board. For example, Maul is also a 7-cost 7/6, but not only does he have Overwhelm, he has Ambush, and when he attacks, if you have another Underworld unit in play, that Underworld can soak the damage that Maul otherwise would have taken. Darth Vader, also 7-cost, except he's a 5/7, also has Ambush, so he gets to attack right away, and you get to search the top 10 cards of your deck for any number of black units that cost a combined total 3 or less, and play them for free. So not only does he get to swing right away, he brings friends. Han Solo, 7-cost 6/6, also has Ambush, so he gets to attack right away, and if he defeats the enemy unit, it deals no damage back to him since he shoots first. Even in aggression already, we have Pre Vizsla, who is a 7-cost 8/7 with a when played and on attack ability to steal upgrades. And I don't think I've ever seen Pre Vizsla played, simply because red decks traditionally don't want to run expensive units. With the exception of Crate Dragon, which is like a game-ending card, red decks don't typically run cards that cost over 6 resources. For example, Wrecker here is also a 7/6 with Overwhelm, with a really powerful when played ability that lets you defeat a resource to deal 5 damage to something right away, and he only costs 6. Yes, Aura Sing has the potential to attack multiple times per phase, but your opponent gets to dictate whether or not that happens. If you're imagining a world where you play Aura Sing onto a board where your opponent has like 5 Battle Droid tokens and you're expecting them to just attack your base for 1 damage, yay, I get to ready Aura Sing and attack for 7. And then they attack your base for 1 damage and I get to ready Aura Sing and attack for 7. That's not going to happen. Your opponent will just send all of their Battle Droid tokens into Aura Sing and then play like a Daring Raid or something and remove her. There is a little bit of synergy with Aura Sing and like maybe playing her in an aggressive Cad Bane deck where you play her and you get to deal damage to something because she does have the Underworld and Bounty Hunter traits, which not only synergize with the Cad Bane leader, but also Relentless Pursuit that we were talking about earlier. So she can capture units and get the shield token because she's a bounty hunter. And actually, quite honestly, she would have plenty of targets to use Relentless Pursuit on because a lot of cards are going to cost less than her. Unfortunately, I just think she's a little too expensive. I think what would have made Aura Sing really, really powerful is if she had some sort of similar stealth ability that Sabine Wren Explosives artist has, where if you have a certain number of aspects, or if you meet some sort of condition, whatever it may have been, she cannot be targeted. If that was the case, and your opponent couldn't just suicide all of their units into her before she has a chance to do anything, that would have made her extremely powerful. But as is, I think instead of being a 7-cost 7/6 with Overwhelm, she's almost more of a 7-cost 7/6 with Sentinel, because the only thing that I see happening is you play Aura Sing, your opponent just sends everything into her to get her immediately off the board, and then goes about their business. The only problem with that is on 7 resources, sending everything they have into her may only be 1 or 2 units. If we get more Underworld or Bounty Hunter synergies, it's possible Aura Sing becomes better, but unfortunately, I think she's just a little too expensive and a little too slow. Alright, and the last card we're going to be looking at in this video is Consolidation of Power, a 6-cost command villainy event. Choose any number of friendly units. You may play a unit from your hand if its cost is less than or equal to the combined power of the chosen units for free, then defeat the chosen units. Now, I totally misread this card the first time I saw it. I thought the card that you played had to be equal to or less than the cost of the chosen units, but it's actually the power of the chosen units, which is a big, big difference. That means if you have a board with a bunch of low cost but high power units, you can use consolidation of power to get rid of them to play something even bigger. For example, if you put 3 Death Star Stormtroopers into play and then use consolidation of power, you can sacrifice those 3 Death Star Stormtroopers, each of which have 3 power, to play what is essentially a 6-cost Crate Dragon. Is that likely to happen? Probably not. Is it going to be something I try at some point? Probably. And don't forget that when using consolidation of power, if units you choose have when defeated abilities, you'll get to trigger those as well. An interesting yet probably impractical example of this is the card from set 1, Star Wing Scout. Now, to be fair, I have never seen this card played before. A 3-cost 4/1 with a conditional when defeated is not great, but let's dream for just a moment that you have 2 Star Wing Scouts in play and the initiative. You could play Consolidation of Power, choose both Star Wing Scouts, whose combined power equals 8, use them to cheat, I don't know, a Reinforcement Walker into play, which activates its when played, allows you to draw a card, and then the when defeated abilities of the 2 selected Star Wing Scouts resolve, and you draw an additional 4 cards for a total of 5 cards drawn in one action. Again, I ask, practical? Pretty cool, though. Part of the problem with consolidation of power, however, is the fact that it costs 6, meaning if you're not sacrificing units with a total power more than 6, you're not gaining any discount. But if it was costed at any less than 6, then I'm sure it would be way too good of a card and probably break the game. Even with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and predict that consolidation of power will actually see quite a bit of play. And part of that is due to buffs. Now, we haven't seen a whole lot of mass unit buffing abilities yet. But I had mentioned something in the last card review video that I'm going to mention again, and that is, imagine we get a card like General Veers that says, give other friendly separatist units +1/+1. Now, you play Consolidation of Power in a deck that likes to spawn 1/1 Battle Droid tokens. Except those 1/1 Battle Droid tokens have the potential to become 2/2 Battle Droid tokens, and now you only have to sacrifice 3 of them in order to break even with Consolidation of Power. On top of that, let's just assume that whatever card that is that's buffing the droids is also a 3-cost 3/3 like Veers. You could sacrifice 3 tokens and whoever that unit happens to be to have a power of 9. And now you're cheating Crate Dragons into play by turn 5. Consolidation of Power doesn't care about the printed power on the cards, it cares about their current power. A not so great example of this would be if you had enough resources to play Cunning and choose to give a unit +4/+0 for the phase. You could then attack with that unit, and if it survives and you had the resources left, you could then play Consolidation of Power, choosing that unit as one of your selected units, and the +4 buff from Cunning would contribute to the combined power of the chosen units for Consolidation of Power. I say this is a bad example because if you're going to be running Cunning and Consolidation of Power, you're going to be paying 6 for Cunning, then 6 for Consolidation of Power, so you probably have the 12 resources to just play your expensive unit already anyway. But if a card with a similar effect to Cunning, you know, not a choose 2 in any order, but at least some sort of buff to the power that lasts for the entire phase, that same scenario could potentially play out for cheaper. Obviously, that's me kind of evaluating Consolidation of Power based around cards that we don't even know exist and may never exist, so that's not really fair. But simply the fact that you can buff up a unit and whatever its power at the time you play Consolidation of Power is what ultimately matters. I think this card will see play at some point. Alright, so that's it for this video. Only 5 cards to talk about today, but this spoiler season's just getting started. I plan on staying on top of these as much as I can, try to talk about, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10 cards per episode. Really interested to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments on what you think about these cards, if you think any of them are going to be stronger or weaker than I said, or any interesting interactions that you guys may have thought of. If you like this sort of content, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That way, when I post more in the future, you'll see them in your feed. And if you don't play Star Wars Unlimited, but it's something that you'd like to get into, there is a link in the video description to a how to play video that I made that should teach you all of the basics you need to know how to play. And lastly, if you're looking for people to play Star Wars Unlimited with, I also have a link to my Discord in the video description. Feel free to join that and chat up some people in there. There's a couple of us that are always looking for people to play with online. But that's going to be it for now. Thank you all for watching. Mobius1 here, and I'll see you in the next one.